So it appears that rapper Eminem has written a couple of, I guess, diss tracks that feature Candace Owens, where he's kind of, attacking her and her character and all that jazz. Well, Candace Owens did respond to the diss track, and I'm going to tell you how I feel about this, about where both sides are coming from, and also have a little bit of a message here for Eminem. Listen to this.
Because there's a lot happening here. First thing I want to say is Eminem is obviously a gay man. It's very sad that Eminem cleaned out his closet but never came out of his closet. But let's get to these lyrics. I'll read them to you. He writes or says or raps, and Candace O, I ain't mad at her. I ain't gonna throw the fact BITCH forgot she was black at her. Oh, laugh at her like them crackers she's backing after her back is turned in a cute MAGA hat with her brand new White Lives Matter shirt. Haha, nope. Or say this MAGA dirtbag in a skirt just opened the biggest can of worms on the whole planet Earth.
Let me pause there and let me chime in here. So first of all, this part here, I ain't gonna throw the fact she forgot she was black back at her. So I do want to comment on that part there, because I don't agree with Candace on a lot of things. And I do think also that Candace knows exactly what she's doing. Like, she knows what to do, how to make the money. And she has been, coached and all that kind of stuff. Like the Daily Wire, like these outlets have a lot of money. And the right, when it comes to media, they do have a lot more money than the left has. So I think that Candace knows how to sell her brand. I think she knows what is going to make her successful and make a lot of money. And that is being a black female conservative and saying the things that she has said about the black community. Candace Owens isn't stupid. I don't think that Candace Owens forgot that she was black, as Eminem quotes it. I think she's playing the game to make the money that she wants to make. That's it. I don't think it's worth people's time trying to sit up here and try to figure out why she's doing what she's doing. If you just do the math, and especially if you do independent media, you'll know why she's doing what she's doing, because she makes more money at it that way. Yes, she left the Daily Wire. Some people said now she can turn, differently or whatever. No, because there is a certain audience that she built up. So even though she left the Daily Wire, it's not like tomorrow, Candace Owens is going to be like, okay, that's it. I'm going to start saying some other things about how I feel. No, like, she's going to maintain that audience. So just keep that in mind. That being said, this comment here from Eminem, she forgot she was black back at her. So I'm just going to say, Eminem, as a white person, it's really not your place to tell a black person that they forgot that they were black, or to allude to the fact that someone is not black enough. That's really not your place. So we're going to call out both, because listen, and I grew up listening to Eminem. I think a lot of you did. I listened to Eminem songs. Eminem Show album was probably my favorite one. And I used to think that Eminem was like some radical. Like when I was growing up, the Eminem Show, he had multiple songs where he called out the wars. He called out the military industrial complex. He was calling out, George Bush. But then I noticed that when Democrats took office and they were still dropping bombs, Eminem didn't want to call that out. So I realized along the way, Eminem was just a shit lib. Just a shit lib. You can call out George W. Bush for dropping bombs, but you couldn't call it out when Obama did it, and you're not calling it out now that Biden's doing it. So, things like that. This part here, laugh back at her like them. I hate these words. She's back in after her back is turned in a cute MAGA hat with her brand new White Lives Matter shirt. Haha, nope. I didn't agree with that. Again, I think that was something Candace was doing to make, again, to make a name for herself and make more money. She knew what she was doing with that. And then this part here. So I will say, like, the part where he said they were laughing back at her or whatever after the back was turned. Yeah, Ben Shapiro and those guys at the Daily Wire, they completely turned on her. They completely turned on her. Once she wasn't pro-Israel, all of a sudden it was like, okay, you got to go. And then to implement a gag order against her as well. You know, it's just, it was fucked up. Just keep it real. It was messed up. But it is not your place to tell a black person whether or not they're black enough. I think you need to fall back. Maybe you've been into one too many cookouts. Let's continue on.
Call her Grand Wizard, yeah, Candace, haha, or Grand Dragon, or like the national anthem, I won't stand for the tramp. Why? But I can diss her, because my plans are to get in her pants, and I'll blow my chance if I answer back to her. Oh, but I can't diss her, because his plans are to get in my pants. Ew.
So that part, get in the pants, so she is married. But you guys know how Eminem, I'm just going to say this, Eminem, your songs, stop rapping. Eminem doesn't make good songs anymore. He doesn't make good music anymore. And again, I say this, someone grew up listening to his music. The quality of his songs are not the same as they used to be. And now it seems like he's just pumping out albums just for the hell of it. And the quality is not there. Let's continue.
You disgust me. Okay, a lot going on here. I think first and foremost, I just would like to again remind people that he is in fact a struggling internally gay man. And so there's a lot happening with Eminem, and we should pray for him. On the second point, the way that we know that is because he's actually recycling things that black women have said about me on the internet. Like, he's pretending this is original, calling me Candace. It's not. This is like he's just recycling the black women that don't like me on the internet, have a lot of names for me, one of them being Candy O. So he's like watched what they're saying, and I guess someone who was listening to him in the booth was like, yeah, this is a good one. Yeah, drop the beat. They're really, 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 really going to like that. By the way, there's a second song he also dropped. This one's called Bad One, and the lyrics are this about me. Yeah, this whole subgenre with all these corny white rappers, I'm not a fan of it. It ain't my fault, but like sock puppets, I had a hand in it. This $1,000 in my hand is just like what Candace did when she turned her back on her own race, because I have abandoned it. Oh my, so cool. That's a tough one. That's so tough. The black community is going to be going crazy. I don't think that's going to happen at all. Actually, I'm doing this because I want to help him go viral, because this is sad. This is very sad. I want you to feel sad for Eminem, because this is just not the way for someone's career to go down the drain. And
I want to say something here else about Eminem as well. I think that, I don't know how young everyone is in the chat, but I remember when Eminem, his first album was released. I remember there were a lot of criticism from people saying this guy's trying to be like another Vanilla Ice. And that was kind of like, for those who don't know, that was a diss. that was not a compliment. Not a compliment. So there's that. But also, I think that what some people may not be aware of is that there are, songs that Eminem made saying some pretty nasty things about black women. Now, those songs never made it to the albums that were released, but if you Google it online, you can find it. So Eminem really has no room to sit up here and talk here. Like I'm saying, like, dude, you're really the pot calling the kettle black, because you have said some things in your music that were very, very offensive about black women. So that's just, I'll see if I can find it. Let me see.
I want us all to do our part to help make Eminem relevant again, at the very least, and he can be relevant just by me speaking about him. He understands that. By the way, I did TMZ earlier. They were asking me, like, in part, though, aren't you honored that someone who's recognized as the greatest white rapper of all time is dedicating all of his time to you? And I said no, because it would have meant something if he was at his prime. As an example, Dave Chappelle, he made a really honestly, it was kind of a hideous joke about me. I didn't think the joke itself was funny, but I did appreciate the fact that Dave Chappelle, who is the most famous comedian in the entire world at the peak of his career, was mentioning me on stage. Like when he was very sad about George Floyd and he did this whole skit and he said some awful things about me, I did have that moment where I went, wow, Dave Chappelle knows who I am. This is not that with Eminem. He is not at the peak of his career. He's at the end of it. His career should have ended like 15 years ago.
So I found it. I want to show you what he said. Now he's apologized, just FYI, he has apologized for this, but I just really think, again, Eminem should not be the one to bring this forward right now. I'll bring this back up and we'll go back to the video. Eminem apologizes for his old racist rap. See, a lot of people don't know about this. Let's go down here. It says the source has unearthed 2 old tracks, only one of which Eminem has acknowledged as his, in which he makes derogatory comments with a racial component. And I'll highlight it here. We're not going to be able to say everything. On the unacknowledged track, a singer calling himself Eminem refers to that On the acknowledged track, he raps, blacks and whites, they sometimes mix, but black girls only want your money because they're dumb chicks. Don't date a black girl. If you do it once, you won't do it twice. Black girls are dumb and white girls are good chicks. So that was Eminem. So the way I see it, he really has no room to talk. Just stop, dude.
And he keeps going. And so this is not a rapper that's at the top. He's actually doing he's going through a strategy that a lot of new rappers do, where they find out who is the big rapper and they start a beef, right? He's like, oh, nobody knows who I am, so I'm just going to start a beef with Candace Owens. And he's just fading out of the American mindset entirely. So this is what he's come up with. And I want to say this, genuinely, the pander here is pathetic. He's literally making a plea to the public. I hate white people. That's what he's saying. He's calling white people crackers. He's using a slur against his own people, while at the same time, unironically, accusing me of doing what he's doing. He's like, she turned her back on her own race, as he turns his back on his race and calls them crackers. Yeah, I've never used slurs to describe Black Americans because I don't have an issue with my race, but you very much have an issue with yours. And the other thing is, like, he doesn't even know what his audience is. Again, this feels very maybe could have done something in 2016 when the whole world was, so anti-Trump and it was the George Floyd moment. He doesn't even understand what's happening. I mean, that conversation has broken in the Black community. That's why Trump's numbers are up. Beyond that, I've been on the Breakfast Club. I've done Joe Budden. Like, Black Americans are following this podcast. They actually like me. I went viral on a few of those channels on Instagram.
Let me pause for a second. Because hold up, Candace. You went on to the Breakfast Club right before you got fired, which I'm pretty sure at that point you knew the firing was coming, right? So you went on the Breakfast Club right before you got fired. Let's not pretend like you've been going on to these shows like all along, because that was not the case. That was not the case, okay? Oh my God, Jesus Christ.
Channels the other day because of my conversation with Don Lemon. They're starting to hear what I have been saying, because back in 2016, when I was saying Black Lives Matter was a fraudulent organization, people were not ready to listen to that.
No, that's not why they brought you on their show. And I think the Don Lemon one airs this week. They brought you on their show to grow their audience. Don Lemon brought you onto his YouTube channel because he was fired from CNN and he just started his own show on YouTube and he's trying to build up his channel. Similar to like Mehdi Hassan is doing the same thing. You guys know Tucker Carlson is doing the same thing. We have a lot of these people coming from corporate media that are starting like their own like YouTube show and all that kind of stuff. But they brought you onto their channel so that they could grow their audience. That's what that is really about. That's why Don Lemon brought you on. He brought you on to grow his audience. I think she was on Mark Lamont Hill's show as well. Although I think her and Mark Lamont Hill recently had a debate before. Yeah, I don't think this is the only time her and Mark Lamont Hill had a debate. I think they had a debate before a couple years ago. But the reality is, a lot of people knew that Candace was trending because she was fired from the Daily Wire. So people were like, oh, let me try to see if I can get Candace to come on my show to grow my audience. That's how this game works, folks. And for a lot of you watching, like, try doing this one day and then you'll see. You'll see who really stands on principle and who's just trying to bring people on because they want to grow their audience. That's why Dawn brought you on. It's just the reality. Let's continue.
But then what happened was they proved that they were a fraudulent organization, and people said, yeah, no, I think Candace may have been trying to tell us that, and she was right, and maybe I need to listen to her rather than listen to what other people are telling me about her. And one of those people that they're not going to listen to is you, Eminem, because you're just so irrelevant. Your music isn't good anymore. And like I said, you're the one that's actually cosplaying a race that you aren't. You're desperate for Black Americans to pick up your tracks because you abandoned the audience of a lot of people who were listening to your music. I'm a trailer park kid, and then what did you do? You dunked on kids from the trailer park. You dunked on actually an entire middle class of white people who loved your music. You dunked on people in the country. For what reason? For what reason other than you misread the room? And the reason that you misread the room, rather, is because what's actually happened to Eminem is he's an out-of-touch elitist. He is.
Let's pause there. So she's right about him changing his audience or not realizing who his audience is today. That is true. When I was growing up listening to Eminem, Eminem was popular with a lot of white kids. Like they, liked it. Like, hey, he's talking about something, he's rapping, but he's talking about like what it's like growing up in a trailer park, like that kind of thing. So something that I felt was a little bit more relatable to kids that had that same experience. So that is true. If you looked at Eminem concerts, like if you look them up on YouTube from back in the day, most of the people in the audience are white. So it was a lot of white kids that said, hey, there's someone that looks like me that's rapping and is actually pretty good at it. So there was that. So I think she's right about him not really knowing what his audience is anymore. So that part is kind of funny. But again, I still say, Eminem, you really, you can't be going around basically telling Black people they're not Black enough, dude. That's really out of pocket. Not your place.
This is what happens. He is now a lefty elitist. He belongs on a campaign trail with Hillary Clinton when she runs for the third or fourth time. That's what he should be doing because he's pretending to know anything about what's going on. The reality is that a lot of those people in the country that he doesn't like, take it from me, I moved to Tennessee, have a lot more in common with the people that he's trying to appeal to. I think he thinks he's appealing to the hood. They have a lot more in common because these are regular people who are suffering in different but similar ways, who recognize that the economy is not good, and an Eminem track is not going to make it better. Here's the last thing I want to say about Eminem. He is a lesson to a lot of people out there that you need to know when it's time for you to retire. You don't want to retire on this note, right? Eminem is 51 years old. He has not modified his brand at all. He's not grown up. Most people know that you do have to evolve your brand, right? You can even see this as just one example. Miley Cyrus, like in 2016 or maybe a little bit before, she was like shaking her butt. We can't stop twerking. And now she's cleaning it up and she's singing music that's still catchy, but it's not so crass because
that's just maturity.
And she's actually giving interviews saying that, this is who I was because I wanted to break out of the Disney shell, and this is who I am, and this is where I'm going. And I don't think she gets it right all the time, but I can at least recognize that she's evolving. Eminem's not evolving. He still thinks that he's a 13-year-old boy who is rapping in his room, and that somehow people are going to find that appealing, when in reality, he's 51 years old. His daughter, or maybe he's older than 51, his daughter has just gotten married, which means that Eminem should be behaving more like a potential grandparent. He's granddad. This is granddad shady. You know what I mean? But granddad is not acting like a granddad. I'm going to need granddad to start acting like a granddad and not producing this trash to pander to the Black community. That's what I want to say on that point.
I will say, I think she's referring to the maturity level. I don't think that damn, I didn't realize he was 51. I didn't think that Eminem is really, I will say, he has gone through sobriety. I will say that is something that he has talked about before, that he did. He was able to quit drugs and all that jazz and focus on fitness. So I will say there was a change there. But yeah, I think at some point you do have to grow up. So I agree with her with that. I don't think that Eminem has fully grown up. When she said he was 51, I had to think to myself, like, damn, because he doesn't doesn't act like he's 51 years old. It just makes you think. But I just think, again, like, I think that Eminem is struggling with his artistry. It could be just time for Eminem to just say, you know what, I'm done with the rap thing. Maybe I'm just going to produce, because the quality of the music is not the same. And I've been saying it for years, bruh. I gave you chances, but I haven't bought any Eminem albums since Eminem Show, I think, was the last one. So there's a lot of that. But again, I think that Candace knows how to play the game, and that's what she's been doing. She knows how to, okay, I know what I can say and do that's still gonna, get me a lot of money. And what she said about the brand thing, she's right about that. She's like, at some point you have to move on. You have to rebrand yourself, which is what I think she's doing right now. There's differences that's happening with her work. And I just think Eminem really has not done that. He has not.